Right, hello guys, welcome back. So the title is not a lie. Next week all raid surges will be gone and instead all weapons will be brought up as if they had surges. So this means that we are no longer restricted to specific weapons and we can instead use the highest DPS setups to achieve maximum damage. So just like the title says, today I'm going to be teaching you the highest DPS and total damage setup in the game, which to nobody's surprise is a hunter with Celestial Nighthawk and Still Hunt. There are a few things you can do to make this as optimal as possible though, which is what we will be going over in this video. So what are you going to get out of this build? Well, if you put everything together, you're going to get self-sustaining Radiant, which is a 25% damage buff by the way. You're going to get self-sustaining Weaken, which is a 15% debuff. You're also going to get the highest burst DPS in the game, as well as the highest total damage in the game. It really is a complete set of everything you could possibly want in a damage setup. I'm honestly going to be so surprised if Still Hunt doesn't catch a nerf in the future, but for now we can enjoy it for what it is. So let's go over the loadout, starting with the subclass. So obviously we're going to want to be on Goldie, and then as for our abilities, they don't really matter that much. Your aspects are mainly for keeping yourself alive up to the damage phase. As you can see here, I actually have two loadouts. One of them which has the Nighthawk on it, and the other which is the sort of pre-damage leading up to damage meant for survivability and ad clear. So if you guys remember, I've already posted a video on this build. This is just my Liar's Handshake Prismatic Hunter perfected. So I'm just using this as the sort of way to get to damage. You can go watch that video if you want to see the full breakdown, but we're basically using Liar's Handshake with combination blow to generate as much light energy as possible, and then we're going to be using our other sources with fragments and weapons like our Vulpecula here to generate that dark energy, because having your Transcendence for damage is also very important. The only thing I will say about your pre-damage build is that you want as many ways of generating orbs as possible, which is why I have triple heavy-handed, which basically means that every melee kill that I get will make an orb, which is going to feed into a few things that we're going to talk about in a moment. So yeah, we just have Stylish Executioner and Winter Shroud for survivability for pre-damage. There is one change that we have on our damage loadout, which is changing our melee ability to Snare Bomb. Now, the reason we can afford to do that is because when we pop Transcendence, it will refresh all of our abilities. So even if we had combination blow on our previous loadout, it will give us Snare Bomb as soon as we pop Transcendence when we start damage. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the reason we have Snare Bomb is because it will give us that source of Weaken, and because we are Transcendent, we're going to be able to spam it as much as possible. We also have the Magnetic Grenade here in combination with the Facet of Dominance, which will make it weaken enemies, which is just another source of Weaken for when our Transcendence runs out. Moving on to the fragments, we have Facet of Courage. This is one of the three important fragments. This basically gives us a 10% damage buff to all of our light abilities, which includes Golden Gun, whenever we affect targets with darkness debuffs. And the main darkness debuff that we're going to be inflicting is Freeze and Slow, which will come from our Hailfire Spike when we are Transcendent. Because if you guys don't know, the first portion of this grenade is a sort of slowing field that eventually causes a freeze and shatter. So this is going to allow us to proc Facet of Courage as often as possible when we are Transcendent. So we're going to be getting the 10% from Facet of Courage. We're also going to be getting the 15% weaken from our grenade whenever we run out of Transcendence with Facet of Dominance. Facet of Purpose is mainly here for the survivability side of things for pre-damage. You can swap this for something else if you want to. Then we have Facet of Dawn. This is the third important fragment, and this is how we're going to be able to get our self-sustaining Radiance, because every time that we hit our enemy with our Snare Bomb, it will also make us Radiant as well as weakening the enemy. This interaction wasn't possible before, and you can do this constantly because when you're Transcendent, you're going to be able to spam your Snare Bomb as well as your grenade, so you'll just keep on going. Finally, we have Facet of Sacrifice. This is just to build our dark Transcendent energy before damage, because it is a little trickier to build your dark meter, because a lot of this setup is dominated by light damage, because if we're starting with Liar's Handshake, we're obviously going to be getting a lot of arc melee kills in the process, which is going to give us a lot of light energy, but the dark energy doesn't really come from anywhere else. You can get it from your primary weapon, which is where I have this Vulpecula here, but having fragments like Facet of Sacrifice does help. So that's it for the subclass. In terms of weapons, we're going with a Vulpecula here. This has Shoot to Loot Explosive Payload on it. You don't have to have this weapon. The weapon in your top slot is really down to you. I only have this because in the Witness, it's useful to have a Shoot to Loot weapon, sort of look over at the arena and then shoot to loot any ammo you have when it comes to Final Stand, for example, or something like that. But then, obviously, the main two stars of the show are Still Hunt and an Apex Predator. Now, this isn't the usual Apex Predator that you'll see in most places. In fact, it has Explosive Light on it. Now, the reason for this is that because in this rotation specifically, it's technically better to have Explosive Light, because overall, it is higher damage than having something like Bait and Switch, for example. Reason being is that when I come to teach you the rotation, you're going to be shooting 2 rockets at a time, and with Bait and Switch, if you go out of your way to proc it, the first one won't have the buff applied, but if you have Explosive Light, both of those shots will have that 25% damage buff on it. And when you have Enhanced Explosive Light, it then gives you 7 rockets instead of the non-enhanced 6. So basically, 7 out of your 9 rockets will have that 25% damage buff, which is just pretty nice. Okay, so mods-wise, this is a damage loadout, so you're just going to have all things that can help you enhance your damage when you come to use it. So I just have targeting mods, I also have loader mods, a dexterity, resist, bursts, radiant light to help the friends out. Then we have 2 solar surges and 1 solar holster. Now the reason for this is because there's a special tech you can do with Still Hunt that allows you to make the rotation a lot more fluid if you are using solar holster. And it's better if I actually show you this in game. So if you imagine that I currently have the Nighthawk shot loaded and I shoot it, it puts us at 5 bullets in the mag. So to charge the perk, you need to shoot 6 bullets. And the thing is, you have to reload in order to get to 6 bullets in the mag again. But solar holster does let us get around that if we bring in a rocket into the rotation. What we're going to do instead is, because we have solar holster, we're going to shoot the Nighthawk shot. So imagine this is the Nighthawk shot. I'll shoot that, then we'll swap to our rocket, shoot 2 rockets, then we'll also be able to do a debuff and a grenade at the same time. And when we swap back to Still Hunt, it will be back to 6 bullets, which will then let us shoot all 6 to charge up the next Cayde's Retribution, and at that point we can hold reload and it will put it all the way back to 6 bullets. So again, I'll just show you. We'll shoot 1, which is the Nighthawk shot, swap to rocket, shoot 2 of these, you do debuff and buff, and then swap back, and we have 6 bullets once again. Another thing that helps with the rotation is that when you pop Cayde's Retribution, it will reload your entire magazine. So for example, if we're in the part of the rotation where we're charging up our next one, so we've just shot 2 rockets, we've swapped back, and it's up to 6. We shoot all 6, as we can see here, and then when it's out, we'll hold reload, and it puts us all the way back to 6. So we shoot Cayde's Retribution here, back to the rocket, shoot 2 of these, melee, grenade, and then it's back to 6, and we rinse repeat. Obviously, I don't have Cayde's Retribution again, but that is the main sort of rotation loop. So essentially, whenever you swap to your rocket, you shoot 2 of these. You're going to be Transcendent as well, bear in mind. So you shoot both of these rockets, you use your melee, you use your grenade, and then you swap back to Still Hunt, shoot 6 shots there, pop Cayde's Retribution, shoot it, and then you rinse repeat the whole process. Also, I forgot to mention, the reason we pop Transcendence is because when you are Transcendent, you get a 5% stacking weapon damage bonus that applies to everything. So it stacks with well, it stacks with tractor, it stacks with weapon surges. So yeah, that's the reason you want to try and be Transcendent before you go to damage, because it just gives you a little bit more on top of everything else. So now that we've gone over the loader, I'm going to show you a practical example of what this looks like in game, and be prepared, it's quite a lot of damage. This is without solar surge, by the way. What is that? Oh, okay, that was good. That was good. That was basically it. Let's see it. Okay. Damn. Nice. Okay. That was actually sick. Like, I can't believe I just first tried that. Holy fuck. What? So yeah, that was a pretty good clip, but you won't always be perfect. So you may have to reload your Still Hunt at one point, or maybe you just forget to throw your debuff or something like that. But at the end of the day, that's still fine. You don't have to execute this perfectly. You're still gonna be at the top of the DPS charts if you do this to at least a reasonable degree, which is now why I'm gonna play this witness clip, which is not necessarily a perfect clip, but it is a more realistic representation of what you might be doing when it comes to actual practical bosses like that. That's going to be front right. Back left with the jump. Jump. Okay, okay, damage. Back left. Nice, good job. So yeah, that is the highest DPS rotation in the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will leave a dim link to the DPS build in the description if you guys just want to copy it hassle-free. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Your support means the world. And if you're really into the content I create, consider becoming a member of the channel, which not only lets you support me in the best way possible, it also nets you a whole host of awesome perks along with it. A massive shout out to these members up on screen, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.